Okay, so this is the Environmental Policy Commission meeting for September 29th, 2015, 7 p.m. at Village Hall. We were going to approve the minutes for July and August. We're going to push that back because we don't have quorum. So we've invited Jason Rosenberg to come and talk to us about herbicide spraying that Central Hudson is doing in areas in the village and town. So we'll hear that first, and then we'll move on to our regularly scheduled business.
Okay, it's mostly in the town, I believe, power line corridor, and I think that at one point the regulation was that they had permission to spray herbicide around the poles. Now I don't know if that's changed, but certainly laying down landscaping fabric would be one way of keeping vines from growing up the poles. I think that in the past their policy had been to cut down tree varieties and leave shrub varieties, which makes it like a wildlife sanctuary because it ends up with a lot of wild hazelnuts and wild plums, wild blueberries, wild blackberries, various fruiting plants for the most part. And so it's like a destination for migratory birds, and also it crosses a lot of waterways, so it affects the water in the region very heavily. I noticed that there was a lot of various, amphibians and fish in some of the runoff streams along the power line corridor right after they sprayed, and then a week later there was none except insects. So it may have been seasonal, it's possible, but it seemed to me like it was a direct effect of the spraying. I saw when I first went to the power line corridor, like the day after they had sprayed, there was minimal effects of the spray damage, but then over the course of the next week, it was progressively worse. And I have photographs that I sent you guys that show, especially the hazelnuts are negatively affected more so than almost any other plants, and a lot of wildlife eats the hazelnuts, so it affects the wildlife and the environment. And hazelnuts are expensive products at the store. They only sell them at health food stores now because they're almost $20 a pound, which it wasn't like that a couple of years ago. So it's I think it shows that it has value to humans as well. It's a very important food source. It's high in calcium, magnesium, and protein, and things like that to anything that eats it. And it's important to keep those things from being damaged by herbicides because it contaminates the environment, it contaminates the genetics for the plants. They become mutated because of herbicide drift, and when they try to grow back, they grow back with strange shapes. And there's stuff online about how this can affect people too. I'm particularly concerned about power line corridors in Kingston, where the drift may have gone into people's living spaces, but that's obviously not relevant to New Paltz because it's not in particularly close proximity to people, but it has the same effect on the environment. And I think a lot of business here is based on ecotourism, so we want to keep our environment beautiful and not have a lot of herbicide drift when the land can be easily maintained in the way that it's been, which is with just cutting down ash and oak and other tall tree varieties, leaving the shrubs.
Jason had sent over some pictures for us to review, and in the pictures there appeared to be some kind of deformity to some of the plant life you were talking about. Do you think that was genetic deformity caused by the herbicides, or was that damage done as a result of the spraying or after the fact?
If it was browning, then that's caused by herbicide damage. If it's graying, that's past herbicide damage from past seasons, because they've been doing this for a couple of seasons now. And I'm not sure to what extent it's drift from pole spraying or that they're doing broad spraying in the area. I think at the entranceways, like where you see it from the road, they spray broadly to show that they've been there and they've done a good job or whatever, but it's kind of like makes it ugly from the road, which is kind of like the opposite of what we want. But if you see things growing back strangely, it's because they've been sprayed in a past year, and then it's damaged their genetic material, and it's coming back crippled.
And you were saying that they could achieve the same results from using landscape fabric?
Around the poles, yeah. If their concern is that vines and other things will grow, poles make it hard to maintain, then they could lay landscaping fabric, or they could just send somebody to weed whack, however often, maybe twice a season or something like that, would keep significant growth off the poles.
No, there's no doubt that power line corridors create a unique habitat.
Mhm.
That's something that when we were doing habitat mapping, that was a category of habitat because of the way that area actually gets sunshine, and because it's so consistently cut back. And there's no question that the chemicals that they're using are poisonous and damage the environment. We know that. They're using herbicides. The question is, how do we control it? How do we stop them from doing it? What control do we have over those areas? And what can we do about it? Whose decision is it to use the chemicals? And how can we stop them?
Well, I have a contact for the arborist at Central Hudson. He's a hard person to talk to. He's kind of like my way or the highway type of a guy. And I think his job is mostly PR to, keep people who are dissenting away from the company. So that might not be a good lead. When the building inspector was talking to Central Hudson about the removal of a mulberry tree from the where the pole was, because it was pushing up the pole. He was given another number. You can get in touch with Brian Arms about that number. And then Lewis is the tree company that actually does the work for Central Hudson. Lewis, yeah. And there's now a 15-foot box around the corridor, which is where there's not supposed to be anything, but then it's more under high voltage lines. The 15 is for high voltage lines, and then there's less clearance that needs to be for secondary lines. As a matter of fact, trees can be touching secondary lines. It causes some grounding, but it's not enough to warrant removal of the trees. I think that the county has some sort of laws about pesticides, and doesn't the village also have some laws about pesticides?
Yes. Yeah, but my question is what jurisdiction do we have over the right of way? What jurisdiction do we have for that particular property? I don't know.
Well, I would say if there's state and federal environmental agencies, then getting them to agree that this is an important issue would be the first step. So DEC, EPA, and then maybe we can leverage it from a higher level of government if necessary. But it seems like, the county would be a good place to start, see how the county laws are being implemented.
Jason, I can't recall if you sent a map with us, but could you give us an idea of the geographic area that you are aware of and where it is sort of relative to village and town?
Yeah, it's in the town. It's off of Horsenden and between Horsenden and the property for the recycling center, which is in the town. And I'm going to go to a town meeting, but I was hoping that if you guys have any laws about herbicides on the books, that you can let me know how they're being enforced, and maybe I can talk to the town about how to create those types of laws in the town. Or if they're not being enforced, maybe how we can enforce them better in the village, or, just work from there.
The laws just apply to municipal use of pesticides.
Okay.
So I don't know how Central Hudson fits into that. They're not, it's not quite the same thing.
Yeah.
But maybe we have some control over it.
But it is for the public's electrical supply. So it seems like if the state or the federal government thought that it was an important wildlife space to protect, then it would be ultimately up to the people, because that's who's getting the supply of electricity.
Do they lease that
I
land? Or
don't know,
I
that's
don't
my
either.
question. Who
Yeah.
owns it, who controls it, or who has the ultimate say over what happens on it?
Right, like if that were to go through a pre-existing property, you would assume that maybe they would lease that from a landowner, or I have no idea.
Well, the dump is Ted's town property,
So,
so that would be the town, not the village, and I don't know if the county passed.
Yeah, I know that the town did
And
not,
the
and the
village
county
did.
did, and the village did. So what I'm asking is, as a village environmental organization, can you recommend anything to the town? Can you know?
so the town does not have existing.
No.
surplus.
And
Okay.
do you know anything about the county regulations and how they affect this kind of thing?
To ask.
So one of the things that we do as a commission and that we're tasked to do is to research areas of environmental concern as they relate to the village for us specifically.
Yeah.
But we're finding more and more that things are overlapping with the town as well, which is a good thing, really. Certainly we would be interested in finding answers to these questions. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly. But we certainly could set about trying to find some answers. Another idea that pops into mind would be trying to get or elicit some kind of an official correspondence from Central Hudson about what kind of spraying is taking place and with what frequency. I don't know if they would respond. I don't know if we have a legal right to that information, but as
I
you
mean, I
said.
would imagine that you could foil it if they don't respond.
Right, so I'm thinking that would be a place to start in a way, would be, or one of the things that we could do, aside from on the research end, would be to try to elicit some kind of a response from Central Hudson, just sort of an acknowledgement on our part that we're aware of and have concerns about herbicides, and see if they do respond. And along with that, it might not be a bad idea to make recommendations regarding alternative care that they could do. So things like the landscape fabric or other less poisonous methods. So that's sort of the two places where I think we might start. Definitely to try to get you that information regarding what the laws are in the village, though I don't think they'll apply to the Central Hudson space, but they might be of use on the town side. And then also to try to elicit some sort of a response from Central Hudson. That's off the top of my head.
I don't even remember, is it Hector Stones that we do?
From
From the county.
we could definitely get in touch with Hector, and that'd be another person to talk to as well, Hector Rodriguez. And now you're gonna go meet with the town regarding this as well, and you'll meet with the ENCB? Okay, great. We have a really good correspondence that we've established recently with the ENCB. So I think once you go and speak with them, we can sort of triangulate as we have been doing in these correspondences to kind of keep this moving along. And I know Joe on the ENCB is a big fan of letter writing, so he might be into composing something to send off to Central Hudson, and we could put both of our commissions on that letter to see if we can elicit some kind of a response from them.
Okay.
I don't think that would be a good place to start.
Okay. And in terms of reaching out to state and federal environmental organizations, I feel like coming from a group that it would probably elicit a reaction more than if it came from me. I have trouble getting the Shade Tree Commission involved these days in anything beyond approving and denying applications for tree removals. It's been hard to get anything in the ground even recently. So if you guys tend to do informational based stuff, then
Yeah, and I think this kind of thing is pretty much exactly what we're supposed to be doing is looking into things exactly like this. So we definitely appreciate you bringing it to our attention. I think as far as contacting state agencies at this point, I would do a wait and see to see if we get anything from Central Hudson, and then we can talk to Hector on the county side and see what kind of regulations the county has in regards to this. There may already be things on the book that could apply. So I would say we should probably start there. But I would definitely be curious to see what they say on the ENCB side as well. So when do you meet with those guys?
You know, I've forgotten the exact date. I think it's like October 7th.
Okay, so soon.
Yeah.
All right, so
You have to guess as to the monetary value of the plants that Central Hudson destroyed. And would you be able to give a ballpark?
It's hard to say because you wouldn't be able to purchase plants that large. If I were to say based on their value of how much crop was lost of hazelnuts or plums or blueberries or whatever, it would be a lot of thinking on my part to really get an honest guess. But if if you're talking about years and years of hazelnut production, years and years of plum and blueberry production, then it would be relatively astronomical because those are varieties that have been here since before colonization and will probably continue to be here for several thousand more years. So if they're being genetically damaged, then that's a big problem.
Well, I guess I would recommend, the plants themselves. I guess you're saying that they're at the age where you couldn't buy a plant like that.
You could not buy a plant like that, no. And if you were to try to section the root tissue up into pieces that could be sold, assuming that they would transplant well, I would say probably each one of those hazelnut shrubs would be like, if you had, a plug of root that was like that big with a couple of canes coming out of it, that would probably be like $40, and then you probably get like 50 or 60 from each shrub, and there's probably like 50 shrubs, or it's just really astronomical how much tissue is being damaged. It's very productive to the environment, and is kind of like our genetic heritage of the region, because there's particular varieties of plums and hazelnuts that are native to here that were food supply for the Native Americans, and then they were shown to the Dutch when they got here, and the English when they got here, and the Dutch marketed some of them. In the early days, they were exports from the colonies. So it's all really important for science and for history and all sorts of different things. Besides just ecological value of wildlife and stuff.
and the runoff aspects are pretty concerning as well.
Yeah. There's the power line corridor is a series of hills, and there's channels between each of them that flow into a larger body of water. And I'm not sure where that ends up eventually, but it probably flows down into Wallkill eventually.
Yep, I would imagine so. Great. So I think we have our next steps pretty well cut out for us.
Great.
And definitely thank you for bringing this to us. We really appreciate it. And we're all kind of in an email loop. I'm fairly certain I emailed off all of the stuff that Jason sent to me to everybody in our group, so everybody has it. And we will kind of get the ball rolling and get going.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
I'd like to, before I'm totally done, I'd like to offer folks some locally picked apples
Thanks.
and locally picked chestnuts that I roasted.
Oh, sweet.
Yep.
I wanted to actually see if you wanted to
Awesome. Thank you.
roast chestnuts after the meeting, because I felt guilty because I harvested a lot of chestnuts today.
From where?
The only 4 chestnut trees I know of in the village.
Oh, all of the 4 chestnut trees that you know. Okay.
But I only know about 4.
Yeah.
2 and 2. 2 of
Yeah. Well,
two
there's one on Huguenot Street, but that's not dropping yet.
I didn't go to that one.
Yeah.
The other 2 really dropped today. We harvested them.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds good.
Awesome.
No, I'm guilty for that. I don't know. I'm getting,
I don't know if we've had snacks at these meetings before. This is good.
these are delicious. We gotta roast them. I don't know what you're doing. I got a whole file. Simon helped me pick them.
Would you like apple?
Well, give Simon a chest one. They're so delicious.
You guys like that piece?
No, thank you. I just didn't, I should have taken the husks off with my shoes on. I didn't do it. So my whole kitchen table. I wish we had more of these trees. So delicious.
So I'm going to go through a couple of items that we're going to move to next meeting. We've got municipal garbage pickup. Jackie was going to do a presentation. She's unable to be with us. So that's going to be moved. Open space inventory, Noah was going to address. He's had a death in the family. So that's going to be pushed back. Plastic bag promotion. We discussed some about that last meeting. There hasn't been much change. So we'll push that back. So those items are all things that are going to get pushed back.
Good news on the bag is that the SUNY Sustainability Committee produced their own version of the bag that we made,
Oh, really?
and is giving them out.
Oh, no way. Nice.
I looked at it and I said, wow, I didn't know we made one of these. She's like, well, I make them. I was like, wow.
Did they have the logo, the bag
Yes.
free MPZ on it?
Yes.
You're kidding?
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
That's pretty cool.
That's really cool. We have the December 31st deadline, so to speak, for reporting out. One of the things that I thought we could do at that meeting was make the recommendation for what we would do with the $200 that has been set aside to promote the law. So we can kind of use that as a deadline, so to speak.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, what was the date on that?
December of each year, we are to report out. Technically, it's something the secretary would do. It's actually written into the structure of the law. We would report on what each commissioner is doing, so kind of what activities we're engaged in. I believe we could make budgetary recommendations at that point, and then also the way that the law was created, that the law could be reviewed in December, and any changes that the commission felt was necessary could be recommended to the village board for them to investigate. And that was a point that I had on here too, Rachel, was that I want us to review the law that created the EPC ahead of that December meeting, because we do have the legal ability to make recommendations for how we might alter or change it if it needs to be. And I know there were issues that we needed clarification on in terms of do researchers have to be from the village? Some of the little nuts and bolts that we might want to ask for clarification on. So I'll send out an email about that to everybody. And you know, we have the law in the Google Drive, so we should be able to look at that. Only other things I really have, I'll just keep going if it's okay, and we can kind of wrap up. But the membership fair, Rachel attended the volunteer fair on behalf of the EPC, looking for volunteers to join us. We have an opening for a commissioner, and we have multiple openings for volunteers. So I don't know if you want to update how that went, or...
We have to follow up.
No, they might be in the other room over there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We got some contact information to did some outreach. It's just a matter of following up. It was a pretty good experience. It's always good to sort of, because you also network with the other environmental groups. And, I think we'll have better luck at the, maybe at the internship fair, which I think is coming up in October.
Yeah, I think the date was coming up soon as well. So would it be the same process for that, where we'd have to put in for a table, and would it be the same contact?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What Wagner, Erica
Yes.
Wagner, I believe. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll get the date on that, and I'll see if I can get the ball rolling on that.
Thank you.
Would you be able to attend that as well, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's similar during the day? Okay,
It's during the day, yeah.
all right, so I'll get the ball rolling on that. I think she may have actually sent me an email about it, so.
Yeah.
That's the internship fair. Great. And I'll draft a letter, hopefully next week to follow up with the volunteers. I just haven't had a chance to do that yet, and I'll run it by you, and then we can send it out. Letter. And then the only other item that we needed to update was the Millbrook Preserve grant that David Gilmore was preparing to ask for additional funding through the Greenway Conservancy Group. Those applications, to my knowledge, have been sent. The EPC drafted letters of support. Either they have been sent or they're being sent shortly. I don't remember what the date was.
It's all went in. I don't know what the results are, or how long we have to wait for them yet.
Yeah.
But I have a meeting scheduled Monday
To talk about some of the water issues with the plan.
Okay.
But, I don't know.
Great.
People are doing stuff. This is a log someone cut away from the path. People are actually.
Where is this now?
Oh, that's in the Millbrook.
It is in the middle.
Yeah, it was a big tree that fell across the path, and someone came along with an axe and cut it, and did. People are keeping the paths clear.
Cool. So that's basically what we have. Until next time, unless there's anything else that you needed. Good. Were you just hanging out there? Yeah, great. Okay, great. Okay, so I guess we are good to go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.